Your protection from deception. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Good morning, TFR. Good morning.
To you. Start your day off bright and shiny. Get up off your little hiney and begin your happy day.
It is Tuesday, my dudes.
It is Tuesday, my dudes, and happy Tuesday to you all. My name is Josh Corey, and you have tuned into the Ironworx right here on Truth Frequency Radio, TFRlive.com, and I am joined by some very good friends and co-hosts of mine this morning, starting off with Mr. Zachary Zabala. You may know him as Good Times for All on YouTube. Zach, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, not too bad. How are you doing, Josh?
Oh, not too bad, I guess. You know.
Yeah, one of those early rising starts, I know.
Well, I'm just
it's
glad
only Tuesday, though.
Glad I got up on time this morning. If I'd have been late this morning, there's no way we'd have done it. Took me a half hour just to figure out why my sound wasn't working. So take that for what it's worth.
Hey, we can always just blame it on it's like before 5 a.m.
That's
you know?
True.
So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. There you go.
So how was your weekend, sir? What'd you do? Anything spectacular?
I got done building the garden bed for the beans, got the poles up and the line all run. Digging in clay is not a lot of fun. I'm coming to learn. It just doesn't ever get easier. It doesn't matter if it's cold out, if it's warm out. It's just not fun to work with. I don't know how people garden in it. So I'm definitely going to be building a couple more beds we're talking about over the summer. I'm excited. But we got a foundation started for, teaching them how to get things going and take care for the plants and all that stuff. And yeah, and then it's going to be, but yeah, it's just the hard part. The building of the beds is always the hardest part of the garden. It's like anything, the beginning part, that breaking ground it's tough. But yeah, got through it. So yeah, it was a good weekend.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. Let's say hello to Mr. Lucas King, LC King on YouTube. Lucas, how about you, sir? How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. I done a market. It was not too shabby. What else did I do? Not a lot, honestly. Made another little video the other day, which was good fun, and just doing a bit more research on things and finding a few things which is interesting. So hopefully we'll talk about them a bit later. But yeah, other than that, I'm good.
Well, excellent.
Real good.
That's what I like to hear. There's so much not working on my computer this morning. I just don't get it. Sorry. I'm working on it. Let's say hello to Mr. Walter Johnson. You may know him as Flat Earth Head here on YouTube's Walter. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Josh. Good morning, Lucas. Good morning, Zachariah. How are you all this morning? I'm here. I'm fine. I'm awake. Kicking these machines hard as we can, waking up those hamsters, and they just will not wake up. So I get it. As Zach said, it is 4 in the clock. 4 in the clock.
4 in the clock.
We may have a show title already. Goodness. All right. Yeah, as you can tell, my tongue's not awake yet. So I'm going to pour more coffee on it and ask you, how are you, sir? And how was your weekend?
Well, we've decided to just go ahead and file a claim with UPS in regards to my new computer. So
Yeah. When I saw the lick it had taken, I kind of think that's probably your best course of action. So, yeah.
Well, I haven't seen some of these videos that people are putting out of. I mean, it's not any certain delivery service. You can't, put any delivery service in this box. It depends on the person. But yeah, some of these guys come up and they're like shot putting
Yeah.
packages, heavy packages that they
Yeah.
fragilize,
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing, man? If you don't want the job, you probably get paid more to not work now.
uh-huh.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, that's probably your best bet. They probably have been getting a lot of those lately, I'm sure.
Well, granted, what you're saying is true. I do see those videos, but it is, part of it is just the scheme they've got us working under now, Whereas here where I'm living, it wasn't as easy to just run down the road and, hey, there's a new computer on the shelf, pick it up and go, or even parts or any of that. I had to drive, a good hour and a half away. Where Josh lives, you would think it would be an easy thing to do. Just run down to a local store, quote unquote, big box, whatever. But he's in a bigger city, a bigger metropolis type area, or has access to it anyway. So the fact that he couldn't just run down and pick up a computer speaks to a couple of things. Number one, computer parts aren't out there. If you're trying to build a computer over the last year, you know this. It's ridiculous. They're scalping GPUs, and it's just ridiculous. But when you shut everything down and close every fucking local business there is, and then push everyone to order shit, just order everything, sit in your house and order it, let them bring it to you. When that becomes the norm, then they have to hire anybody they can get to deliver. Yeah. There's not as strenuous a screening process when you're having to deliver every fucking thing to everybody, because that's how they've got us set up now. Sorry. Early rant.
A new graphics card, it would be like 12 to 18 months. That's what I've heard people saying.
You can get
one brand new from a factory.
You can get them in about 60 probably, but it'll cost you about $1,200 to $1,800 for a graphics card. Yeah.
So if you have the money, you can get it rushed to you right away if you're willing to pay $1,800 for something that's $300.
And by rushed, again, you're still waiting a month.
Yeah, 2 months. Yeah, month to 2 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's insanity. That's just crazy. Gamers unite. So yeah, I feel you, Walt. I feel you, Josh. That sucks.
It is a little gross.
And I think Bob got out of that business just in time.
And I probably could have just run down to the store and grabbed a computer off the shelf. I probably could have. I probably would have paid less, but I would have gotten quite a bit less. I don't know that it would have come anywhere near to what this machine is theoretically supposed to do. So, there's a reason I didn't go down and just try to grab one off the shelf, just because I didn't think that was going to pass muster, so to speak. So I wanted to have one built. I just did not expect. Well, when Jonathan sent me his, same damn thing, almost in the exact same damn spot. But his still worked when I got it. But they don't care. They don't care. It's all cardboard boxes to them. They don't think about what's inside. And I think the guy that built the computer assumed that because he insured the package, that they would then somehow treat it differently because it was insured. And I think that might have been a lot of the problem, because his packing was left little to be desired. Basically, he shipped it in what they packaged it for sale in. There was the 2 end pieces on the case, and then 1 piece of styrofoam that covers the glass. Mm-hmm. And that's how he shipped it to me. So I'm not even sure UPS will qualify that as proper packing, because how do you expect it not to get damaged when you don't really protect it? What in the world is going on? OBS looks... Oh, maybe it is you. Walter, you're just low. for some reason, OBS is cutting off your lower chin.
Oh, it could be my camera because I was doing things in here over the weekend, moving stuff around, trying to just clean up my setup a bit. Didn't do it. It's just junk's rearranged in different files now. But
That's how I do.
I must have hit it doing something, most likely. So I should turn it off. I'm sure the morning hair is lovely. Shout out to everybody there in chat. We'll see you guys. Just haven't had a second to say how I did finally type and send it. See, there you go. More coffee is the doctor order right now, for sure. For sure.
Well, yep, that was my weekend. I actually got started on the grass a little bit and made sure all the lawnmowers worked. Ryder started up, but didn't last very long. So I'm going to have to figure out what's going on there. Other than that, things have been pretty quiet.
Well, if it started up and then died, that's at least you got halfway there.
Hell, I even drove around a
That's
little bit.
Started up.
I even made a lap, cut some grass before the whole thing started to.
Yeah.
You'd be all right. Bad gas. Maybe your air, you need a new air filter or something like that. Maybe your fuel filter got clogged, something easy like that.
Just pull it out and rinse it with some gas. You'll be good to
I
go.
was going to say, it ran okay. It was the deck, I think, that started shaking violently and caused me to go turn it off. And then, of course, it wouldn't restart.
You turned it off. Okay, well, you're
Yeah.
gravy then, dude. It's all, after that, it's just pulleys and crap
Pulleys
like
and belts,
that.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, one of your pulleys probably may have broken off like a crescent moon of it, just part of it, and that'll do that. That'll make the whole thing. I just fixed a fan, an industrial fan in this lady's house a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, and that was it. It was so simple. It had two pulleys on it, connected to a motor, connected to fan blades. They did it so perfect back in the day. It doesn't need all this extra blah, 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 and this cover here and this thing. So we have to take off 80 screws to get just to the stuff to work on. It's easy to troubleshoot stuff like that. Yeah, it took me a couple times to turn it on and off. I tightened the motor up a little bit. That didn't work. And looked at the fan blade, spun it, then tried it again, didn't work. And then the third time after I started and stopped it, I checked the pulleys. There's only a couple parts. You really have. So yeah, I bet underneath there you got a pulley that's doing something, or a belt is not right. There's something going on, but that's an easy fix. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping it'll be an easy fix. It's got a new battery on it, but the damn thing won't start. I got to jump start it every time, which pisses me off.
I can't stand mowing lawns. I mean, I have to go to someone else's house, my wife's mum's house, and grab the mower and then drive it all the way over just to do a shitty little patch. Sometimes the council guy, they got those like big enclosed sort of mowers with they're kick ass. I'm like, yeah. And they just basically, sometimes you'll see him and he'll do all the front of the house. I'm like, yes, stoked.
Thank you.
I pulled him out of a bog once. He was around the side of the house and he was mowing the sort of next to the street there. And there's like a causeway or a drain sort of thing. And he went a bit too close to it and got stuck in there. So I went around with a ute and a chain and pulled him out. And so I think that's my reward. He does the front lawn every now and again for me. Or he's just killing time.
It's good to be
one of the two.
Good to be neighborly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Now that the garden beds, the 3 are in, I'm still going to get the herb garden and the strawberry done before this season really starts. I'm going to get everything in there. But yeah, it's starting to come together. Yesterday I was only inside for maybe a half hour to eat. The whole day I spent outside. Maybe 5-6 hours of it working on the garden bed and just finishing up on it, making it look pretty. But the rest, I got my camera out and I was talking to birds and I was taking pictures of plants, and catching that early sun. I got some really cool pictures of ferns while they were still all rolled up. They haven't unfurled, you know. Just yeah, it's good to get back to nature. It's been a little while since I've taken the camera and gone out and really explored with that macro vision. Saw some birds I've never seen before. Chatted with the bird. I think I pissed it off because once it noticed that I was a human, it flew away. But I called it in from however far it is. I heard it whistling, and I just mimicking its whistle. It would do three, and then I would do three. It would do three, and then I would do three. It would do two, I would do two. And I just kept doing that for a good 5-6 minutes. And then it flew to a tree like right overhead, and I looked up at it, and it looked down at me, and I was like, "You piece of shit."
It probably thought it was in for a good time.
Yeah.
It's like, let down.
When I was a kid, like, 8, 10, something like that, my dad was living here. I wasn't yet. I was living in Mississippi still with my mom. But I would come over here to South Louisiana for summers and stuff. And we would always go out on the Atchafalaya Basin where we took you, Zach. And out there you can do some amazing fishing and hanging out and just enjoying the water and the nature out there. But we would always take this like man that would he was a member of the church. We were good friends with my dad. He would go with us and we would fish, and he would start doing owl calls. And y'all, owls would come from miles around and start liming the fucking branches around us. It was the eeriest shit I ever watched. And then he would try, I would try. He would, he'd say, "You try it now." And I would try to make the same noise as he was making. And he'd say, "All right, watch when you're doing it. Watch that branch up there." And I would do it, and the branch would start shaking up and down. He said, "They're laughing at you." And it would look like they were fucking laughing at me. I mean, that really looked like these owls were laughing at my feeble attempts to replicate his call because I couldn't do it, obviously. But yeah, it was pretty crazy watching him call like literally 20, 30, 40 sometimes. It was just crazy, crazy, crazy. But yeah, they interact with us. They definitely can. There's more going on there than just chirps and whoos.
Yeah, I played with them.
This was a while ago before I started doing this stuff, but I had a bird whistle the first half part to National Geographic song. I had him doing the whole, at least that part. I couldn't, after that, it took me 25 minutes, a half hour to get him that far along. But I noticed, I was in my early 20s, and I was just whistling with him. I used to whistle all the time back then. And I noticed he started mimicking me. I was like, cool. So I started messing around, and yeah, that National Geographic song popped into my head, and yeah, they definitely, you can talk to them. They talk back. It's wild.
Yeah, I play with the morning doves around here. I've perfected my morning dove call, so I call them in every once in a while.
So just to verify my sanity, I checked to see if owls laugh or chuckle, and there's about 5 videos that popped up. Do owls make a laughing sound? And the call of the laughing owl has been frequently blah, blah, blah. So apparently it is a thing. They were fucking laughing at me. That's great. That is brilliant. I love it.
That's awesome. I don't see too many owls. I've only seen a couple my whole life. I saw an owl.
They're frequent here. I mean, they're all over, different colors, different sizes.
Another bird. That was my first owl experience. It was a big, huge owl. We were right along the Tippecanoe River, visiting my grandma's old house where we used to play out on the river, and where we'd always have family events over there because it was big and open and off the road, and you could just let the kids go running. There was 5 houses on the whole that side of the river right there, and everybody knew everybody. It was awesome. So me and my cousin, we went and sat in front of Grandma's house. Nobody was living there at the time. We just parked. We didn't get in the driveway. We just parked on the road. And there's a pine tree right there, out in the middle of this field, but right next to the road, maybe 20 feet from us. And we were just sitting there reminiscing. partaking, if you want to call it that. And all of a sudden he notices, he's like, dude, there's an owl. He saw it turn its head. It was moving its head back and forth. There's a bunch of little birds, like little sparrows on the ground right beneath it, eating, playing around, doing whatever. And we both noticed it and we're like, wow, that's awesome. And as soon as we like both noticed it and we're staring at it, it jumped on the ground, spread its wings out, and like made sure that this thing didn't get away, and grabbed one of these sparrows and then lifted its head up, and you could just see the feathers going down its beak. I was like, wow, that's insane. And then it hopped back up in the tree and then went and flew away after it was done eating. But I'll never forget that. Yeah, and the second owl I saw, my buddy found in the middle of the road. There was a thunderstorm out, and this baby owl was in the middle of Route 6. And he stopped his car and picked it up and kept it for like 2 or 3 days and then called DNR. Isn't that what they're called, DNR?
It's probably different in different states, but Department of Natural Resources is probably pretty safe.
Yeah, that's what we called it in Indiana. Yeah, he called DNR and they came and got it. But yeah, those are the only 2 owls I've ever seen. They're not too common in Indiana. What about Australia? Do you guys have owls out there, Lucas?
Yeah. We got ones called frogmouth owls. They're pretty cool. I seen them when we were a kid. I think my stepfather, he hit one with the car or picked it up somehow, and yeah, we sort of nursed it and brought it back to good health and let it go and that. But yeah, they're really cool looking owls. There's a few others, but
being from Australia,
yeah.
are they like 5 foot tall?
What?
Are they
5 foot
like,
tall?
no, I don't think would so. We call it a pterodactyl here in the normal world?
No, I think they're pretty.
Out there in Australia.
I think they're pretty normal size.
Yeah, they're pretty sizable all over the place, or they are here anyway. One flew at our window one time, and I mean, it was easily the width of our car, wing spread. You know, it was, yeah, they're pretty big.
So what's been going on in the news? I haven't heard anything about space. It's been like the last days on my Google, no space anything.
Right, I noticed that too. I saw something about a dragon flight. That was about all I saw. But before we get lost in the pile, we only have a minute or 5 left. I wanted to address something I saw on the TFR chat, and now I see continued here in YouTube's chat. Apparently our buddy Dawn, Enlightened Dawn there in chat, had her Twitter account suspended for something apparently she posted. I don't spend as much time on Twitter as I used to. That's kind of how this whole Iron Realm thing started, was us all hanging out together on Twitter. But we just backed away over the years because of the amount of censoring and shadow banning and things that were going on years ago. I mean, it got to the point where it was just an echo chamber. You didn't really... There were certain trolls that stayed in the chamber with you, and that was about the interactions you had 3 or 4 years into it. Now, when we first got on there were a lot of new people that would actually come in with real questions about, what, Earth's flat? Are you crazy? And they would ask true questions, and they would either do the research and come and become part of these groups, or they would go away and never be seen again. But there wasn't just a constant troll group, bikini smears, and all that crap. So the fact that all this has been going on still to this day, Dawn's account not only got suspended, but when she went back to try to find it again, she found that they had created a bogus account for her with her name and her stuff. And it was an account just kind of like what you talked about before, Zach, about the fact that there may be versions of all of us out there in the internet that have been created by these, whoever they are, agencies, whatever the fuck, to do just this very thing, to get in, infiltrate a group, cause ruckus, cause whatever down the road with a fake account that looks just like the person's account before. But luckily, Dawn was able to recover her account and get back in there somehow. But yeah, it's crazy.
I've been seeing that a bit actually on sort of comments and things under people's channels, and they'll have basically the same avatar as that the channels, and then they'll basically post whatever they want, and people do get a little bit tricked by it. But yeah, so there's definitely people doing that where they're copying how a channel looks and their little avatars and have the same name and then start writing rubbish. Well, if that happens to me,
And
it's
it's
time
not
to
just
delete everything
Yeah.
and get off.
it's not just people doing this by their own means and accords either. If you look into, there's a group, I guess. They're supposedly a off branch of the military. They're called J-Trig, capital J dash TRIG, all capital letters. And it says right on their mission state, they go into spread disinformation on social media platforms. That's like their main objective, to spread propaganda. And you yourself can go apply even and see if you're qualified to do this for J-Trig. So yeah, it's not like it's a hidden thing that this stuff goes on. I mean, they openly state that they're doing it. It's legal. The Smith-Mundt Act no longer is in effect.
Mm-hmm.
Obama did away with that. They're allowed to use propaganda on the American population legally.
There's another thing I've been seeing as well is
Lucas, why don't you just keep that to yourself and hold on to it for just a couple minutes,
just for a little while.
We will find out right on the other side of these breaks. Coming up right after this, it's the Ironworx right here on Truth Frequency Radio. Josh, Walt, Zach, and Lucas hanging out with you this morning. Stick around.
It's amazing how people have been raving about iAlife all over Facebook. They've been posting their testimonials just because they want to get the word out because it's worked so well for them. If you're not familiar with iAlife, it's a 99% pure CBD oil, but the secret is the synergy between the hemp and the ayahuasca vine, the non-psychoactive component of the ayahuasca tea. We recently received an email from a wife whose husband has Parkinson's. For the first time, he's been able to sleep through the entire night. Another customer reported that they're no longer using NSAIDs because their tennis elbow has been relieved with iAlife. The reports have been phenomenal and much more than we ever expected. Everyone should have access to this. That's why if you head on over to ialife.com right now and use coupon code TFR, we'll give you $5 towards your order. And we'll even ship it worldwide. That's ialife.com, AYALife.com.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
More than a dozen astronauts have officially reported UFOs. Hundreds of hours of UFO footage were filmed by astronauts aboard the space shuttle. Many of these UFOs can only be seen in ultraviolet light. Retired former Apollo astronauts and cosmonauts now tell their stories of their own personal UFO encounters.
The Enigma Channel, Intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Time to make the donut.
And welcome back for the second segment of the Ironworx, kicking off right now. What a morning. Jesus. Criminy. I don't know. I was just thinking about all the weird sound settings and hoops I had to jump through just to get on here this morning.
Got a gremlin in there. That's
It's
for
just
sure.
so frustrating. I don't understand. It's why these settings just all of a sudden get switched and flipped and changed. I don't know. It's like every time I come in here, it's got to spend an extra 15 minutes just to put things back to where they were from when I left. And I don't get it. Just don't get it. If I can ever get that new computer up and working, and by God, maybe that'll be the answer.
So I watched this interesting video the other day, and it was about sort of those old monolithic stones and how they sort of look. You know, the big stones I'm talking about, the big walls, and all the angles are sort of look like someone's cut them really on different angles, and they've slid them in really perfectly, and there's sort of no spaces between the two stones.
Right,
You
they're
know
not
what
all
I'm saying?
perfectly cubed or squared or whatever. They're different shapes and sizes, but they fit like perfectly. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and
I
it's
think
like,
you saw
you
the
know,
same video I saw, maybe, Lucas. Is it about some guys in India doing walls?
no,
No? Okay.
no, maybe we'll have to swap videos, Zach. And
Try
anyway,
find
so
this one.
yeah, so basically, what this guy was saying was he got Play-Doh and he got them roughly the same size and in balls, and then Callum says it's polygonal stonework. So yep. So basically, he got these Play-Doh balls, and then he sort of put pressure on either side, and they'd actually turn into these six-sided sort of look like the stones. It looked exactly like the stones on the wall. And so what he's basically saying is that they were soft to begin with, and the actual weight of the stones were actually, creating those shapes themselves. So it was interesting. I thought, well, and he went through a number of different ones, different types of stones, and he was getting the same effect. So it's basically, how are they creating it? It's like concrete in a sense. What's the hardener? He was asking, how are they hardening this, clay or whatever it was into stonework? So that was interesting on its own. I'm thinking, well, that's, how are they doing? What is a technique to actually harden them like that, into a stone? Anyway, so I had a quick Google search and came across a patent. Now, in this patent, it basically said you could create hard or, harden your soil through using 2 electrodes. So by putting electricity and a certain type of, anode and cathode electrode, and putting electricity through, you were actually able to start hardening that soil up. And this was mainly, he was saying it's for drilling holes where there's sand or something like that. And you couldn't actually, if you drilled the hole, the hole would start to cave in on itself. So at the end of it, basically, I put the sort of 2 and 2 together. I mean, maybe these guys were actually using electricity and using, say, a cathode and anode or a electrolysis type thing through the stonework and actually hardening the stones that way. Now, what's also interesting, this guy was using aluminium. One of the rods was an aluminium rod. And if you actually look at granite has a lot of aluminium in there with the silica to bind it up. And it's part of that sort of alchemical tradition. And Ben's told me a few times as well that this aluminium actually is a binder. It's so I just sort of putting it out there, get your guys sort of, I don't know, pique some interest in that sort of way of thinking about it as well.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because a lot of these big rocks that they do find, they'll have notches in them in certain places that don't appear like they were used for lifting it.
Yeah.
And they're not deep enough, they're not big enough to lift that size rock. It's just this little spot.
Mm-hmm. And
that
not
makes
just
sense
in
that
photographs.
maybe that's where they put the cathode or anode right in there. And that was the point of
those marks were not in just photographs of like mining and things, but like Martin's pointed out that those are like in illustrations of those times. There'll be a stone over there with those weird little notches like you're talking about that is important enough for them to put them in this picture they drew,
So what
Now,
it
I saw
ends
these
up
guys in
being
India.
similar to,
Go ahead, Luke, sorry.
just quickly, what it ends up being similar to is basically an earth bag building. So have you ever seen those earth bags where they have like a Hessian type bag or something like that, and they'll fill it with mud, and then they'll just place that like it's a brick. So you don't have to form the brick at all, but you just pack the mud in that Hessian bag and then sit it on top, and you just work your way around. So I was thinking it's basically they were doing the same thing, filling up a bag or something, putting all the dirt inside it, and then using a couple of electrodes and then just harden it up. Very simple technique, especially if they had electricity at their disposal to run a high voltage current through it. It pushes all the water out, and it, the actual metal ions start to solidify things. Go ahead, Zach.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I saw this one video of guys in India, and I mean, it looks just like the walls that you see there in Machu Picchu with those big giant boulders, and they're all different weird shapes, but they're all like perfectly in there. Well, these guys on a brick wall just took some big splotches of concrete. They got it at a certain thickness, just started throwing these things up on this wall and let it harden a little bit, and then they went up and put more on there, and it showed this. And over like the course of the day, it looked just like the Machu Picchu wall. I mean, it looked exactly like it. The way they painted it and shaded it, and they did all this stuff to it, and it looked like these stones that were perfectly stacked together when really there was just a brick wall underneath there, and it was concrete put on it. I'm not saying that's how those walls were built or that's how it was done, but there's people out there mimicking that today, and they have ways of making it look so real. So I just want to throw that out there, kind of devil's
Yeah, I
advocate
just sort of
too.
Yeah, I think it's just an interesting way of thinking about it, and could be right, could be wrong, but if
Yeah, I
depending
love
if
that
we
idea
find,
of running electricity through it to harden it.
yeah, and if you look at granite, and that's the other thing, I was looking at granite, and it's got all the aluminium ions through it, and if you have one of those electrodes that's going to, in this case, it would be the anode type setup. It's a little bit opposite, but for now we just think of it as the anode, and that deconstructs to go to the cathode in a sense. So all those ions will be moving through that soil that you're trying to turn into a stone. So very interesting way of thinking about it, that's for sure.
And ways to think about building in the future.
Yeah, right.
It's
This
a lot
is like,
easier
I
to
want a
take
stone
a big
house.
giant, make a cast type thing, big old mold, fill it up with, clay or dirt or whatever you are going to use, sand,
Mm-hmm.
and then burn electric. And there you go. You have your, you get it all right in place where you want it, electrocute it, ready to roll. On to the next one.
Yeah. Well, I've always really been fascinated by that earth bag building, and just there's something really cool about it, even if it's not stone or whatever, but just the thickness of the walls, that you could get them about a foot thick. And what that does is, it's as the sun's shining on it through the day, it doesn't actually penetrate really through the walls and into the house. But as the sun goes down, all that thermal heat that's collected in the walls starts radiating out again. And so it's actually really warm through the night. And then by the end of the night, it's cooling off again, and so it's cool through the day. So it keeps it'll be similar to being underground in a sense. It holds this constant temperature. And I just thought that's amazing,
Yeah, I've noticed there's those quartz waterfall. It's pretty much those big giant stone things sticking out in the river back here. I mean, when you go scrub them off, it's like all quartz and granite all mixed together with mica and just all these different minerals. And they seem, at least as we got here in like August, the very beginning of September. And it was, a hot summer. And the water didn't run over the falls like the whole way. It ran all the way down to the end, and there was a small waterfall at the end of that long channel. Think of it as two parallel rocks laying next to each other, and one of them is cut off at the end, and the waterfall is running out that way. That's kind of what it looked like. Well, about February, after it had been cold for a while, the waterfall started falling over all the rocks the whole way down. So it was no longer just cut out at the end, but this whole side is now a waterfall. And I think that the rocks had shrunk because they got colder. So I'm going to wait till the end of this summer and go out there and look and see if that waterfall is just back to being, and it's not the water level. I know that. It doesn't matter if it's high or if it's low. Even when it's low, which it is like right now, it hasn't rained in a week. It still falls over everything now. And yeah, it'll be an interesting thing to see at the end of the summer if it's that small waterfall again, because the rocks maybe have expanded and grown bigger. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, just something it's so neat learning all this stuff. You start noticing things in nature that you never would have noticed before. And that right there, that growing and shrinking would create an electric charge in all those crystals. A lot of them, at least. Yeah,
So
this
you both
place
got
is
me.
just amazing.
You both got me thinking about. It's getting to be summertime, and I love to make homemade ice cream. And so I needed rock salt. And before I went out and started buying some, I knew there was some somewhere in the pantry. And so I dug around to the back. It's been since last year at least. Maybe this is a box even from 2 or 3 years ago, but it's one that's already been opened. And when I grabbed it, not only was it pretty much a solid chunk on the inside, but moisture here in South Louisiana is ridiculous. The moisture, I guess, had drawn the salt into the box so much that when I went to like punch the little hole thing in again to see if I could crunch it enough to pour it out, that little flap thing just fell into my fingers. And when I did this with it, like bent it back and forth, the salt just poured out of the inner fibers of the cardboard itself. So wondering about that bag thing, thinking about crystals, thinking about that whole thing. What about all these statues that are out there of these people with like netting over their faces and veils and shit? If that's some kind of way of that electrical process you're talking about, creating those works with the salts in human body. I know this is creepy fucking shit, but just thinking about the salts in human bodies, the electrolysis process you're talking about, just thinking out loud more than anything else about that idea and what they could do with that. Because I mean, there's
Well, if you could do a mold of a person. I mean, that's not, just in sections, and then once you've got the mold, you fill it up with the mud, and then you add the electrolysis, the right, different constitutions of mud, and then you add the electrolysis, and then harden it up. So just a mold of a person would be. So there could be actual people that are molded.
there is that idea.
Yeah, there's some of these statues that they're doing X-rays on
Or
and
Medusa.
whatnot. Mark Leedko was showing these, and there are skeletal. There's like a skeleton inside the stone.
What?
Weird. Yeah,
So it's Medusa.
I don't know.
Right, right.
That's
did
what
they-
Malt's getting to.
Did they get it down so perfect? The ability to petrify things that they could turn it into a weapon? I mean, that's kind of what a lot of, mankind likes to do with technology. Instead of share it and, do good for the world, they like to hoard it and use it, turn it into a weapon somehow.
No,
So I don't know.
Advanced mummification.
Yeah, that's like super alchemy right there. That's like, I don't know. I don't know
I
how you
would
could do it so
suggest if
quickly.
I would suggest there more molds and I don't know. How do you X-ray granite? Can you do that?
I don't know. You'd have to. I saw it on one of Martin's live streams. He'd probably be able to tell you exactly what the statue is called, and that guy's brain is amazing. I don't know how he gets all the research done that he does. Big shout out, Martin Leedka.
No doubt. We need to get him back in here.
What about the gargoyles then? Catch them.
Well,
and then they petrify.
Interestingly enough,
But they're all the same. So.
Why? Okay, so if there are creatures out there, where else would they perch but somewhere they could gather a lot of energy? And wouldn't they perch on buildings where people are gathered to become a battery, or whatever buildings or whatever churches were battery buildings, or whatever they really were made for before they became places of worship? Wouldn't you gather on a roof of a building, especially one with all these weird electrode knobs and shit sticking out everywhere? And yeah, you'd perch up there and wait for the energy to come. And the thing that hardened humans would have hardened the gargoyles too. I'm just saying, Lucas. I'm just saying. You never saw the cartoon,
it's interesting.
man?
If you this is another idea. If you know how to harden stone, and you could imbue properties to that stone as well. So if you realize that it's basically metal ions that is holding that stone together, then you might use different types of metals or different mixtures, and might have different properties. A bit like creating a crystal. Yeah. So there's interesting little ways that this can go. The other one that actually, speaking of Martin Leakey, what he was talking about in one of his videos was that they actually use mercury in those, what are they, the big organs in the churches. So that was, they use them to sort of help with the sound as like a switch or something like that. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, so I thought that was fascinating too. So they're using mercury as in the sound. So not only mercury in the organs, but mercury in those balls on top of the roofs of things, and so they're either a glass ball with mercury in them. So just interesting sort of use of it constantly. It seems to turn up everywhere.
Yeah, that kind of broke my brain a little bit. You would be vibrating that mercury too with those sounds, and it would have to definitely some kind of frequency emanation that would occur because of it being vibrated and excited.
Well, that's right. So mercury is actually used as an energy rectifier. So it can take in huge amounts of electricity and change it into something that's usable, or it can flip it from AC to DC, I think it was. So it's very interesting. Its use in electricity and what it does and how much voltage it can actually take. It's just massive amounts. And it's recycled. So it basically will burn off, then cool down, and then just drop down and be mercury again, because it's basically like goes in its endless cycle. So, yeah, very interesting. Information overload.
It is. So I wonder if it was always just lead they used in stained glass windows as far as to outline things, or if there's mercury involved in that as well. I wonder. I don't know. I just, again, thinking out loud more than anything, but just there's so much in those buildings that have, obvious energy to them tie-ins. So.
Yeah, and vibration and harmonics and all that sort of stuff's built into the building itself.
Right, windows
so,
looking like cymatic patterns, exactly like cymatic patterns that we've seen created in experiments. So, yeah, pretty nuts.
Very cool.
Nuts. Well, I guess we're almost to another break, aren't we? We certainly are.
It's about 4 minutes.
About 4 minutes.
Yeah, well, I guess we could dig a bit in that pile you were trying to get into earlier, Zach, when we get back for sure. We've got a backlog of stuff we just haven't touched because we've had so many great people coming and hanging out with us. Shout out Kellum there in chat. So, yeah, we had a great week here last week for sure, except for all the technical fun that we still seem to be plagued with this week. Very frustrating. But Josh is going to get his computer fixed soon, and all that's going to just smooth right out.
So the other thing that I looked at, I suppose we can quickly cover this in a short period of time, was the idea that I had, and it turns out it's not my only, other people have had the same idea, but it was basically that what I was thinking, you got the gases in the air and things like that, but, once they get further enough away from the sun, they're going to start to cool down. And so, I basically came across the idea of solid oxygen. So it's a very interesting compound or, element that, when it gets in its solid form, it actually turns into a superconductor. So that's one of the other thing that's really interesting is its color is sky blue. So it says here it's a clear substance with a sky blue color caused by absorption in the red part of the visible spectrum. So it looks like the sky color, it can solidify and turn into a crystal, and basically has all these amazing like superconductivity, electronic structures. It just has these amazing properties to it. And I thought, well, that seems like it could be a good candidate for the dome. So just cool down air.
I like it. That's interesting as all hell. Huh.
So yeah, just once it gets to temperatures below 54.36 Kelvin, that's when the oxygen turns into a solid.
Huh.
And that's I think that's at normal atmospheric pressure. So you're talking about probably even it could go solid at higher temperatures than that at a lower atmospheric pressure. So just interesting that, and gases, when they're unhindered, are going to, radiate out in all different directions, and that will basically create, the temperature would create the dome. So I just found that fascinating. Get your guys' sort of views, see what the chat thinks,
Caleb likes it. He called it the Oxy Dome. We may have a show title. I love it. Our band name, one of the two. But the idea of it being that superconductive material would make sense with needing to have some kind of way for these objects that look like some kind of crystalline balls suspended up there. The planets and things, I mean. In case you didn't get that.
All right. I'm pretty sure I hear break music.
I do too. I'll shush.
All right. And then that will bring us to the second half of the Ironworx, right after these briefest of messages.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
A failing grade. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. By a double-digit margin, Americans disapproving of the administration's handling of the situation at the U.S. southern border, according to a new AP and ORC poll.
Only 44% of Americans approve, with 55% disapproving. Now, on the related issue of immigration, 42% approve, 56% disapprove. But at the White House, Press Secretary Jen Psaki downplaying the numbers.
Right now, our focus is not on looking at the poll. It is on implementing solutions.
The administration races to open more emergency child facilities. Taxpayers are paying up to $1 million a day for empty ICE detention beds, as the administration is releasing almost 60% of families being encountered currently at the border.
Fox's Griff Jenkins reports 2 Yemeni men on the government's terror watch list have been arrested after crossing the border illegally in the last several weeks. The U.S. and Iran talking through intermediaries today about the Iran nuclear deal.
The teams are not expected to meet face-to-face. Instead, indirect discussions are planned involving the countries still signed up to the accord, including France and China. The agreement imposes limits on Iran's nuclear activities. President Trump pulled out. President Biden hopes to return.
Fox's Simon Owen. Iranian media is quoting the country's outgoing military prosecutor as saying that 10 officials have been indicted. From the shoot-down of a Ukrainian jetliner 15 months ago, Iranian troops had said they thought that passenger jet was an American missile. Israelis are about to learn who will form the next government. An announcement is expected at this hour from the country's president, after a 4th inconclusive election failed to give any party a mandate. Records on Wall Street yesterday. The Dow and the S&P 500 reaching new high closings. Dow futures are down more than 40 points. America is listening to Fox News.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
Good morning. I'm here. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up!
What is dark matter?
Okay, we don't know.
That's great. That's why it's called dark.
It's exactly.
Everyone knows all reputable information comes from random people on the internet. Tell me things, internet. The earth is flat. It's like school in your hand.
Dark matter is something we do not know what it is. We believe that dark matter is there, but we have never detected it. Well, what I'm afraid of course, is that there is no dark matter out there.
So what's one?
There is no dark matter out there. We need to think really hard, to think really hard, to think really hard, to think really hard.
Damn it, I have yet to switch that to a fade out. You know what? I'm going to do that right now. Welcome back to the Ironworx. Josh Walt, Zach Lucas, hanging out with you right here. Hour number 2, kicking off, whilst I still try to settle in to the new studio. Sans one important hard drive. It's all right.
It'll happen.
It'll happen. Like the Iron Scouts promo, I'm pretty sure that was on the hard drive. I've yet to find that one floating around anywhere. I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, what you were talking about there, Lucas, I had a similar idea, but I never really looked too far into it, into the oxygen, and that's so interesting the way it turns that sky blue color. And yeah, I never really even looked into the gases, and I just said, as it gets colder away from, the ground, we get higher up into the air, it tends, at least the measurements tell us. What really gets me though is at right around between 70 and 80,000 feet in multiple balloon launches now, it starts warming up. And I think the highest balloon launch I got to read data on was like 109,000 or 111,000 feet, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And it went from negative 65 degrees, negative 70, somewhere from there, all the way up to like 10 degrees at 110,000 feet. So for some reason, there's some interaction happening in there right between 80 to, I don't know how high it goes, but it gets warmer for some reason. For a little ways, it's weird.
Is that the plane the planets are moving on, you think?
I don't know. Maybe the stars. Maybe that's where the stars are. Because I tend to think that the stars are actually closer than the planets. I think the planets are a little bit higher, and they're at different elevations to where all the stars seem to be somewhat on the same plane. I don't know.
Yeah, I tend to think that the stars are sort of within the dome itself, like as in part of the structure, whether they're different gases or something that actually light up and sort of like a phosphorus in a sense and lit up. And then I tend to think that the magnetic field, especially with the sun's interaction with the magnetic field, changes how we see that reflection of the stars. So that's the best I've come to, that rather than a dome moving and the stars being equally distant to each other all the time, that they actually is a sort of like a reflection or a holographic, I guess you could call it, or just like intersections of light, and then the magnetic. Yeah. So, they might be very deceiving to actually sort of pick out where they are because of that effect itself. So, it's just interesting to, play around with these ideas and put them out there and see what sort of feedback you get. But I sort of just stumbled across that solid oxygen, and I just sort of, because I was looking, for different stuff at that time. But as soon as I saw it, I'm like, this makes, and it sort of relates back to old mythology too, the breath, the cosmic breath, or the, this idea of, the mind and breath and those sort of things being one. And then, that's how creation sort of manifested. So it sort of harkens back to some of these mythological ideas of creation stories, the world egg, so even that I find sort of like the correlations there very interesting, that breath or oxygen would be part of that mythology.
Yeah, there's so much in all of the ancient writings that I think is just, it was written at a different time and the words had different meanings. And I'm sure if you lived back then, it was more of a scientific paper or a physics paper than it was, some type of story. Like all these, when they talk about Mercury, they weren't talking about a god. They were talking about the element of Mercury and all the different things that go along with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's just a symbology, and they understood the symbology because, it was just, it's almost like a story written along with your scientific text, you know what I mean? And someone's put it in a nice story and seen these correlations. And this is what I really like. I really like looking at whole systems. I really like, seeing how we're connected to our world. And I want to find more of those connections, how do I relate to this place, and show that it's, a part of me, and not that I'm not something separate. And that's what they've been trying to do to us for so long, is create this separation that you're just a, happy accident, and you don't actually, your body or who you are don't actually correlate to nature in any sort of way. And that's just not true. There's so many correlations, and we're built out of the same stuff. We've just got to be able to find or see in a holistic way. And, that's my motivation. That's what I try and do.
Yeah, all the answers are in nature.
And they get shown to us in various forms over and over and over. I mean, these mythologies get, twist. There's no new stories in any form. I'm kind of
19. There's only 19 stories.
Right. That's it. I'm kind of going through the chat here, trying to play catch up. You guys are always just as mind blowing as the conversation is here. It gets as much mind blowing stuff going on there in chat. So Robert, Paige, and Caleb were kind of going back and forth about some of these things you're talking about. And Caleb said he had been looking into the character Silver Surfer and wondering if that was just someone who figured out how to Mercury to the maximum. Now, I'm a big Marvel fan, and I had read those books years ago. So to not misquote some things, I kind of double checked on some of the history there, knowing he had been transformed by Galacticus and became this herald that would warn worlds when Galacticus, who was a world-devouring super being, god, essentially, a titan, all these things we keep being shown throughout history, who consumes worlds, well, that's what he became, the herald who would come and warn these planets. Of course, it's all spacey stuff, that they were about to be devoured. The planet he came from originally had created this super utopia, and just all of this idea of him transforming into this. He was transformed from a humanoid into this thing by Galacticus, and then again, here we go, transformation. The whole idea of the salts and the transformation. It just keeps being shown to us over and over.
And didn't the Silver Surfer, because I've looked at him before a long time ago, I was actually going to put it as a picture on one of the YouTube videos, but
right.
I thought it was the moon initially, but he may actually be, because he's quite quick, isn't he? So,
oh yeah.
And doesn't he draw in energy to himself? Doesn't he accumulate energy?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if he actually draws it in. I'm trying to see that here somewhere.
Because there is
let's see. Galacticus transformed him into a silver-skinned, cosmic-powered super being, patterned after an adolescent fantasy flick from Norrin Radd's memory, which was the guy's name before he became Silver Surfer. Yeah, I'm trying to go through this whole long thing here.
His surfboard a big part of it? Wasn't his surfboard without it, he wasn't really as nearly as powerful? He needed that surfboard. That was I think that's from seeing one of the Fantastic Four movies when he came around.
Well, see, that movie really was way far off from most comic book canon. So, but definitely,
Silver by itself is a relation to the moon. Whenever you hear silver in the old terms, it was called lunar. So lunar caustic or lunar cornea, and they were different types of silver salts, basically. So it could be a relationship to the moon itself, but he's also without the board, without the Mercury, not the same. So,
and then the question in chat continued on about the Fantastic Four and them representing the salts. And I mean, there you go. You have a clear, invisible girl, air. You have a guy who looks like rock, earth. You got one dude that flame on. You got your flame. Now, what's the stretchy guy? What's he? Is he liquid? Is he water? Is that what his thing is?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, they're the four elements. And you see this the four elements patterned over and over again. And when you place it in the world, the earth is the earth, the water is the oceans, the moon is the air, and the sun is the fire. So there's your four elements that way.
Nice. So definitely, yeah. These theories, these ideas, passed down, changed around, shown to us over and over.
And it's really just the four elements that create the action. So they're the action part of things, and they work together. That's why they're the four, whatever they are. They're just working together to
right. That's it.
Create energy and things. So it's just very interesting. There's so many correlations you could make to some of this old knowledge that they seem to place in movies and things like that. And then, then even on top of that, they actually, a lot of the characters or main characters will walk through the zodiac. So they'll actually have different, segments of the movie that is in relationship to where the character would be in the zodiac. So,
right.
Just very interesting sort of, they're telling you stuff. Not so much anymore, I don't think. So I've seemed to have gone off a cliff.
Yeah. I think they tell us in every movie. It's just, actually, you're right. I think they've fallen off a cliff as far as movie making goes. With all the new Netflix and all the streaming things going on, there's not nearly as much money in it. And
you're right. Yeah.
They go to where they can get the most audience. and people just aren't watching movies like they used to.
And
Plus,
they
they
have
can look
an
around over this
agenda as well.
the agenda, and they can look around over this last year at what's happened and what people have allowed to happen and go, we can pretty much throw any freaking fecal matter we want up on the screen. It doesn't matter anymore. People aren't intelligent enough to be concerned. Witness the new Kong versus Godzilla movie. I like big dumb movies.
Idiocracy. When is it going to be
love big dumb movies, right?
That was two big asses fighting up on screen.
It was just dumb. It was all it was. Just kept getting dumber, and I felt my intelligence draining, but I couldn't stop. I was mesmerized. I had to see how bad it could get, and it got worse, and it got worse, and then it really got worse.
Yeah, I was
all the while showing us Hollow Earth and showing us the ancient titans that ruled the earth, and showing us these conspiracy people and making them look really stupid. Lots of agenda in that movie. Yeah. And it sucked. Walt's quick 5-second assessment sucked. Anyway.
How many Rotten Tomatoes? Yeah.
I didn't care for it either.
It was horrible. And I was excited going in. And and when I started seeing the Hollow Earth stuff, I was excited for a second. And then let's don't even dissect it. It gives it too much energy. It's bad. It's bad. It's so bad. It's not even worth talking about.
It was Fast and the Furious King Kong style. There was no real story to it or anything like that. It was, there was a baseline story, but it wasn't, the plot was not thick at all. It was special effects. It was crash, roar, rah, rah, rah.
Right. Exactly. Shout out Robert Page in chat. They always give us tips. TIPS. Truth in plain sight. I love that, Robert. Thank you.
Yeah, that was the funny part of the movie, was the crazy conspiracy theorist was right.
Aren't they always? Yeah. How often are the crazy conspiracy theorists in movies wrong?
Yeah.
Almost never. They're definitely portrayed to be crazy, and usually initially are wrong. But by the end of the movie, what they were saying is usually the way things are.
There's some food for thought.
It's a bit of a tip there, or tips.
Another tips for you there, right?
I like that, Robert. Oh, excuse me. Had to get more coffee.
There's some good ones. The other thing I noticed is where's our feel-good movies? I want some feel-good movies back. They're always just rampaging or whatever they're doing. It's like you either get kids movies or you get these action-packed. I watched a movie the other day. It was called Tucker, and it was about that sort of car industry and how it was an old movie. Remember that one?
Based on a true story, his story. But yeah, it was about the big three running a guy out of business who was just trying to make cars safer and more fuel efficient and better and more cost efficient for the consumer, and they weren't having it. They ran him through the ringer.
But that was a good movie, though. It was
those
feel
Tucker
good.
automobiles out there. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it was Jeff Bridges, I think, wasn't it? The Big Lebowski?
It was indeed. Sorry, I'm playing with coffee. My apologies.
It looks good too, that one. Doesn't look good on radio.
It has extra shot in it. It's always best. Extra espresso. But definitely the idea of just bringing all these theories, I guess, are not even that anymore. I mean, they're just waving it in our face. It's not even a theory, and then you have to ask, okay, so if they keep showing us this, we know there's the idea of their karmic, or I guess they think it's their karmic safe road, whatever, that if they show us these things and they've covered their ass. That's one side of it. But is it still possible that there are the good people that get through, the white hats, the folks like us who are like creative? I know like a dude right here that we're talking with who can jam his ass off, that when he makes music, he's putting good energy and good intent and good lyrics in it. So why can't those people eventually get through the system and be the ones that are showing this stuff? Does it have to be the agenda? Does it have to be always that this just mind fuckery? Does, you know, we look at these things and we suss out the good. Can't that be part of it? Is it always an agenda? Or am I looking at it with too much rosy glasses, I guess?
Yeah, you're pretty
like when you
drunk right now.
what's in that coffee?
That's good coffee. Good fucking coffee. I don't know, dude. It's just I feel like there's got to be more to this than us just raging against fucking demons all the time. There's got to be more to this place than that, you know?
Yeah, when you're looking at movies and that, like, to make a good movie, you have to use those old stories. It makes it exciting. It gives it all these interplays and things like that. So when they stray away from that, it doesn't work anymore. And no one's going to like the movie because it's missing a plot. It doesn't have character building. It doesn't have all these things. So they have to use that stuff. And that's why we can sort of recognize what's going on. Because if they didn't, no one would watch it.
Yeah, I think the truth also holds your attention. Even after you are done watching the movie and you walk away and you're like, and the rose-colored glasses come back falling over your face, you think, oh, it was just a movie. That stuff doesn't happen in real life. You know, the conspiracy theorists are wrong. The government loves me. They don't lie to me. You know, you put those glasses back on, but while you're watching the truth holds your attention because you know it's true. Maybe that's part of because when they don't put the truth, like you said, when they don't put that in there, people don't watch it. They're not interested in so-called fantasy when really it's, you know, the truth that they're really seeing, and their soul is screaming at them, wake the fuck up, stupid, this is real, stop watching the news. And then you get out of it, back to Zombieland.
But we relate to that as well. You know, we want to have those emotional experiences and those little rides and be involved in that, you know, characters building and their truths that come out of that. So, you know, in some ways they're sort of, you know, putting a mirror up to us, and instead of us actually doing it in real life, we're just watching the cycle unfold instead of recognizing that, hey, this cycle could be happening right now in my life. So there's that sort of thing there. You know, it's a bit of trickery. You know what I mean? That you're seeing on the screen instead of seeing it in your own world. And they just make all these characters do fantastical things when these type of things could be happening on a subtle level in your life all the time as well. So your life is actually telling a story. So I find that interesting too.
You broke Walt's brain again. I can see it in his face.
What you're saying is perfectly in line with what I've been trying to work on myself. I mean, I said something about it maybe last show before, you know, why would we incarnate here as a human if we're not here to have a human experience? You know, we're already powerful and enlightened and full of it all and know everything out there. That was the point. They got old. They got boring. There was nothing new. And we got it all here. What else? So here we get novelty. Here we get new experiences. Here we get cause and effect. Here we get growth. Because if you know everything already, there's no growth. There's no place to go. There's no leveling up, to put the game metaphor back in it that I see Hori and crew there talking about in chat. And I mean, even that idea, the gaming aspect, you know, we talk sim world, we talk why are we here? You know, to me, I think this is that biggest game ever that we have all agreed to play together. and changing things in it and learning cheat codes a la alchemy or magic or whatever is part of it. And being that griefer who figures out the dark secrets and the evil shit, and you're the griefer now. And I've been playing a lot of GTA, in case you can't tell. So that's tying into my thinking about this too, is the idea that I started out completely new, no level, no energies, no money, nothing. I had to work it up, I had to build it up. And then I met other people who knew things I didn't know, and they showed me those things and helped me learn them. But then I also met people who've worked outside the system, and they've spent money on these cheat menus, and they can do things in God mode. And well, isn't that just learning the secret crafts behind the scenes that we aren't all showed? The cheat codes, the cheat menus. I don't know. I'm ranting a lot. Sorry, the coffee's kicking in. And we got to be getting close to break. Yes, we are. What, Josh?
90 seconds. I was thinking of Call of Duty and that god-awful prestige mode, right? Where you can't really level up anymore, so they just sort of reset you. But talk about prestige and being of the elite. Being able to go back to zero, but still maintain some of that memory, some of those skills, some of that hardware and software and things that you had before that you can bring with you, and then just learn to unlock them again.
Right.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Really interesting. But that does bring us here, damn real close, about 45 seconds before we come up to the break for our fourth and final segment.
Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. I'm just trying to help y'all. Thank you, Rob. I forgot.
7.22 KDR. COD mobile. Look it up. And that's not none of that God mode hacker crap either. That's legit. I don't play video games to cheat. I used to. It was fun.
All right.
Playing against a computer.
We'll be right back.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Do you have any of these symptoms? Night cramps in the hands and feet. Your arms and legs often go to sleep. On short walks, do your legs get aches and pains? Is your memory worse than it used to be? Ankles that swell late in the day? Has your blood pressure increased lately? If you answered yes to even one of these questions, you may have early warning signs of arterial blockages. Your body is saying that it is time to take Extendivite. These are not the normal signs of aging. They are the warning signs that accompany blocked arteries. Get your Extendivite today. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio makes you want to move.
When you have a great melody, a song lasts forever.
Instantly connected.
I love it when the beat goes.
Did you know you can listen to Truth Frequency Radio on iHeartRadio? Just download the app to your smart car, smartphone, or smart TV and get the best of TFR wherever you are.
iHeartRadio.
I'll see you there.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Jacob Frank Leibovich is the mastermind behind a global network of satanic cults. He taught that the creator God was evil. Jacob Frank proclaimed himself as the true Messiah. He vowed never to tell the truth. He rejected every moral law and declared that the only way to a new society was through the total destruction of civilization. Murder, rape, incest, and the drinking of blood were perfectly acceptable actions and rituals. His followers established the Marxist system and have infiltrated Islam and Judaism. He was the Messiah of the Illuminati. EnigmaTV.com.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR. Frequency Radio.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Beautiful day. It's a beautiful day.
And welcome back to the Ironworx, where apparently every single one of my sound bites now has the low pass filter put on it that I have to take off before I play. Don't ask me how the hell that happens, but there you go. It's a slider.
You legit have
It's
gremlins.
a fucking
for sure.
slider. You have to slide it left or right. All the way left is off. The more you slide it to the right, the more low pass filter. It's up like a third of the way, a quarter of the way. I don't fucking
Have you been taking care of your garden?
as best I can.
The garden gnomes told the gremlins, get him. You've been spending too much time in Air Force One and not enough time in your garden bed.
I think that's pronounced Arden gnomes, Zach. The G is silent. It's a silent
Arden
G.
gnomes.
Arden gnomes because of the silent G. You see. It was after Married with Children, but I'm pretty sure it was one of those sitcoms that Christina Applegate was in, and that was one of the lines from that sitcom. Your garden gnomes. No, I'm pretty sure that's not right. This was the stupid brother. Turns out Christina Applegate wasn't the dumb one in this one. I guess she was trying not to get typecast. But yeah, it's Arden gnomes. The G is silent.
In the English language, wow, what a pain!
Right?
It's a clusterfuck.
It is. I can barely speak it. So
I was going to say something nastier, but thanks, Zach. You basically summed it up.
Got your back.
That's why I am in awe of anybody who is at least bilingual, because I am just barely lingual. So the fact that people can speak two languages, well or at all, is just really cool. See,
I'm with you.
People from Central America, they could speak Spanish and they'd speak Portuguese, and they're real similar, but they have differences. But when they come to America and they start learning English, I learned broken English very well. They say English is so stupid the way it's set up. To them, everything is backwards, and really to every language pretty much. If you look at grammar structure, English is like ass backwards. It's weird how they decided, oh, we're just going to do everything the opposite of how everybody else does it.
It's almost as if a bunch of Masons came and said, hey, let's try an experiment.
Yeah, we're going to reverse everything. And it's weird how a lot of the phrases said in reverse also say English words. That's kind of weird.
Okay. No, I think it's a very special language. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's a pain in the ass to use, but I actually do think it's got some, just something about it is quite special as well. But yeah, the other languages seem to, instead of I grabbed the ball, it was ball I grabbed or something like that. It's you put it a different way around, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at least the languages that I've looked into a little bit, French, German, stuff like that, Spanish, they're all like that. And English is just like, we're going to do it the other way. That was always my question. Why is it backwards? Oh, that's just the way they do it. I know they're just teachers. They're just people like everybody else, and they didn't have the internet back then, so. Yeah, it was weird growing up without the internet at school. You didn't have Google to go correct your teacher and be like, nope, you're wrong. It says this. And teachers didn't have Google to go look up the answer. If the answer wasn't in the little book right there and they didn't know it, they just didn't know it.
Yeah, it'd be easy being a teacher now. You just Wikipedia. You don't know what you're teaching. Or who put the entry in.
Yeah, I couldn't be a teacher just because I couldn't lie to the students. I wouldn't. I would be removed from pretty much any school.
Yeah, I'd probably be the same. That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love doing it though. I was thinking of maybe doing this summer, just grabbing all my scientific gadgets, or maybe just one at a time, and taking them over to like Jack's house, and just doing little presentations for his children, just showing them how electricity works and this and that. We can do stuff on magnets, and we've got all kinds of little toys over here to play with.
Yeah, I love it when my kids ask me questions. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll tell you about this. It's probably going to be over your head, but I'll tell you about it anyway.
Well, yeah, and when you educate a child, you have to be able to understand what you're saying to where you can explain it to them.
Yeah, exactly.
You say it's kind of like this or it's kind of like that. So it really helps you comprehend things that much better when you have to explain it in a simple way.
Well, that's part of the trivium, what used to be taught in schools, that I think it was the rhetoric side or whatever the side it was the trivium anyway. But basically, you would research, then correlate your information, and then at the end of it, your finished product was actually to present that in a coherent manner. So you've actually gone through your research, picked out the bits that you need, and presented it. So there's a very important part of actually learning yourself is actually being able to express that coherently to someone else.
Yeah, they say, you don't really truly understand something until you can explain it to a child.
In sobriety, they'll tell you, in order to keep it, you've got to give it away. Which means it's just sort of helping someone with their sobriety, taking that which you've learned and being able to pass it along.
Okay. Yep.
In order to keep it,
same sort of concept. Yep.
And it is in that passing along of information that helps you sort of solidify your sobriety and helps you stay sober yourself.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that could happen to me that would make me want to start drinking alcohol again like I ever did. I don't ever want to drink alcohol even socially. At the solar return, I never drop. I don't like the way I feel after I drink alcohol. It's great during, but it seems the older I get, the longer it takes to get over that fun night. I have 2 beers. It's like a 2-day ordeal now of just, oh my God, I feel horrible. It's weird. Yeah, I don't miss it at all. Not at all.
Because you got to just drink straight whiskey or something, you're up with that. Don't worry about the beer.
Usually, well, I haven't drank tequila in a while. I haven't drank tequila in a really long time. That was my
Wow,
drink
okay.
of choice.
You go to the real good stuff.
Yeah, not so good. It was pretty cheap, the stuff I used to drink. We'd get the Cabo Wabo every once in a while. That was my favorite. That was that one
Anytime
at
I
room
remember.
temperature. Tasted good still.
Yeah, anytime I remember drinking like tequila or something like that, or it was I had to get up on stage and I was a singer in a band. And I could barely, I had the lyrics in front of me and everything because I wasn't, but I could barely even see the lyrics, let alone sing them. So it wasn't my
finest hour.
crowning. No, I had a good time.
Yeah, you have more, I don't know, cojones than me. I don't get up and perform on stage. I did a couple times. I didn't like it. And people clapped and stuff after I was done. It wasn't horrible, but I just didn't like the feeling of being up there. Wasn't my thing at all. I don't like being in the spotlight. I'd rather be behind the stage, behind a curtain. Someone could sit up there and lip sing. That'd be fine.
Oh man, it was rough when I was trying to be a singer. I'd be like, it's all right if you got a guitar or something like that. You can, but you're a singer and you got a dry mouth because you're freaking out and you're not used to it, and you're getting up there and you're like standing, trying to hit the notes and stuff. Yeah,
it just ain't happening. Isn't it those times though you'd like to go back in time and watch yourself?
Yeah. The other thing is like remembering lyrics. I mean, that's half the time I was on the stage, and you'd be like, shit, between like the verse and the chorus, I was like, what the fuck is the lyrics? And then boom, it comes back to you right at that last second. Then you remember it, and it's just like, wow, how do I even? That's where practice comes in, because you could be, so almost out of it because you're on stage because you freaked out for so long beforehand, and then it if it just sort of like a muscle memory comes back and you can do it.
It must be muscle memory. I never could handle the memorization of the lyrics. That was always my fall down too. Just too much to keep going while you've got all that going on. You got all those people up there. You got these people behind you counting on you. You got 1,000 things happening at once, and suddenly, where's those words? Oh shit, it's gone. Oh no, now what do I do when that next verse gets here? Yeah, it's horrifying. That's why you do karaoke, because it's on the screen and you don't have to worry about it. Cheat, man, you cheat. Oh man.
Yeah, my brother-in-law said every good singer has either them written down. Nowadays, they have a little iPad or some kind of tablet with all the words in front of them right there for them to. Because, I mean, a lot of these people, especially in the bands that have to play for like 2-3 hours, that's like 30, 40 songs. And when he told me, I was asking him about how many songs they have, and he's like, it depends on the age of the crowd and this and that, but we have these 40 some odd songs that we can pull up anytime and play. And I was like, good Lord, that's insane. He's like, yeah, you have to play to the crowd. When you have the older crowd, you go to more of the classics. When you have the younger crowd, you play these. He's like, if you want to get up on stage, you have to, people have to like you.
Now think about somebody like, Eminem, who's been around for decades, right? And the album library that he has and all those song lists. And still, he can jump up on there and mic and freestyle for probably 5 minutes straight. And it's not going to be anything you've ever heard on any single one of those albums. That's what I love about rap and hip hop, is that freestyle element and the ability of these artists to cleverly and intelligently put these words together on the fly in their brain and spit them out in such a way that it flows and it rhymes and it's to a beat and it's aesthetically pleasing to the ears. The fact that they can do this all and it's completely fresh and new. It's never been done before because they're making it up as they go. It's not written down and refined and honed. And I love a good written verse, don't get me wrong, but the freestyles, when done well, are just amazing.
Yeah, that's beyond me. I mean, like we said before, we can barely handle the English language, let alone freestyle it.
Right.
But yeah, you're right.
Young
It's
guys,
amazing.
they'll be like, give me 3 words. And it was like taco, librarian, and some other crazy word. And he just spit out this rap and it was all coherent and made sense. And he threw these words in and it all rhymed and it was fast. I was like, dude, how did you do that? That's insane. But yeah, these people have these. Yeah, it's a gift. It really is.
How about this, Nemo? How about sonically pleasing? It was sonically pleasing to hear these freestyles go. Or, yeah, that'll do. Anyway.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to get it wrong. Who said it? DC. It's like Kung Fu, acting before thinking. Yeah, they just do it. And then later they maybe are thinking about what they actually said. But yeah, it's just coming out of them, just flowing like a waterfall. Amazing. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's definitely an art for sure. I got 7 songs sitting there ready to put lyrics to. I'm just putting it off. It's the last thing to do. They're all finished. Just got to put the lyrics, got to sing them. That's it. So any really good singers out there who's good at lyrics and wants to make an album, hit me up. But yeah, no, it's fun.
Yeah, I'd love to get Chief Crow on. Speaking of music and musicians, and I'm going to try and reach out to him. See if he'd be interested in anything like that. He seemed like a really cool guy. I didn't get to speak to him too long, but yeah, I love his music. I wish he'd put out just an acoustic version. Like he did, like the live show was just as good as his songs off of his CD. You know, the songs on the CD, he has a lot more instruments in there. He's playing a bunch of different stuff. You know, you can do that kind of stuff in the studio. But even live, just seeing him with the acoustic guitar, the harmonica, and that little foot drum, he pulled it off. And yeah, it's just amazing. I love seeing cool musicians like that.
Yeah, so Robert Page just said Eminem has the double M and M. You just noticed that, which is 33. Illuminati confirmed. It's everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? I think it's funny now. I distribute it.
Yeah, I don't.
You get the symbolism just sort of turns up, and you're just like, yeah, because I done a whole video on it, basically, explaining some of these symbols and what they're referencing and things like that. And so it doesn't actually bother me so much. They're just, yeah, they know what it is, or they may have some idea of what it is, and they use it. So that's fine.
We got about 6 minutes left. I'm gonna shout out Karen B there in chat.
Hey, Karen B.
Hey, Karen.
And shout out to Smithy McGreenbeard over there in the TFR chat with us.
Nice.
And I do want to let Dan Morris know that I can appreciate a good cover band as much as a good freestyle rapper. There's just not that many good cover bands. Maybe you can find one that can specialize, like a Led Zeppelin cover band, where you can catch a front man who sounds like the original artist, but for the most part, just like a wedding reception cover band, I don't know.
However, there is a little band that was pretty popular here a few years back in the southern Louisiana area called Spank the Monkey, who were amazing as a cover band. Their tune cover, like their range went from like Tool to the Beatles, and it was literally all greatly done. And when they went off the page and created their own version of a cover song, it was so much more amazing than the original. They put out 2 or 3 albums around here, but it was a regional thing.
Yeah, if you don't sell your soul, it's hard to.
Correct.
The best musicians I've ever seen, and I've seen some very big, popular bands, excluding maybe Tom Morello. I don't know who else was just super exceptional. There's a couple people I saw that were, among the elites when it comes to musical talent. But the guys I saw at the little town fair festivals, the county fairs, up there jamming, doing the solo thing, those were the most amazing musicians I've ever seen. And some of them had followings of like tens of thousands of people that would come to see them at these festivals and stuff. But they never got a record contract or anything like that. Probably because they wouldn't sign on the dotted line. But some of the most amazing, talented musicians, singer-songwriters, people like that aren't the famous ones. It just goes to show you that it isn't just talent that you have to get rich and famous in that industry. You have to be willing to do things. I mean, look at Nirvana. That music was so basic and simple. Yeah, and Kurt Cobain, he had some cool songs, song lyrics and stuff.
Was that yesterday that was the anniversary of his death?
Was it?
I think
I'm
so.
not sure.
Some recent. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you don't have to be musically super gifted and talented to make it in the industry either. It just goes, all that money and fame.
Some of those Nirvana songs were good though.
Yeah, they're great,
I
but
enjoyed them.
They're not musically exceptional. The most exceptional songs that Nirvana did musically were David Bowie songs. The Man Who Stole the World. Wasn't heart-shaped box? I'm not sure.
Heart-shaped box. I used to play that song.
Yeah.
April 5th, 1994.
There you go.
Wow. Wow, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
I was 15 years old.
I wasn't much. Yeah, that
I was probably jamming Sgt. Pepper at the time. That's when I got my Sgt. Pepper album, and it changed my life. Wow, that took me back. I was playing Super Mario Brothers 3 on the Super Nintendo.
That's a flashback.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Wow. I can see my room, my chair, everything. I could walk in there right now in my memory.
And you thought they were Mario Brothers was awesome, just like I did. It's like, wow, look at the graphics. Amazing.
I could control everything. Well, it's only going to give us about 30 seconds, and that's going to round out.
Oh, man. It is. We're done. Okay. Well, thank you, guys. That was
great.
Fun. Quick, it seems. Like, really quick. Wow. Thank y'all so much. And chat. Love y'all for sure.
Definitely.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, guys. As soon as I get some free time, I will try to work out some of these audio issues, especially on the soundboard side. But I don't know. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve I can try. Anyway, I love you guys. We'll see you right back here Friday morning. Truth Frequency Radio, TFRlive.com for another exciting episode of the Ironworx. Until then, be good, be well. We love you.